quick explanation of canning. Now there's a lot of other equipment you can buy for canning, but I'm going to make a simple process here in case you don't have a lot of money or just don't want to go out and buy it. So for me, I have hard water. So instead of boiling to sterilize my jars initially, I put the lids and the jars inside the oven. And then I take the little magnet thing and stick it to the bottom of here once I pull the jar out. And I just grab the jar here from the front with this little piece of equipment and let it cool. Or you can just let it cool and then take it out there if you don't have the thing to grab the jar. Now that funnel makes it really easy to pour. I've already poured the peach jam into the jars. I'm heating up the water right now. There are canning pans or pots that you can buy, but that's unnecessary unless you need a huge large pot to do the quart jars. Normally if you're going to use quart or above, you're going to need a huge canning jar, and you want to space these apart, and you want to make sure that the water is at least about an inch over the top of the jar. So here, probably pour a little bit more water in. Now, I could have put these in with this, but the water's not that hot yet. If it was boiling, I would have dipped them in using the top part here. So with this pint jar, I need to add a little bit more water so that it's further underneath the water. Boil them for about 10 minutes. Now you can use this method also to sterilize your equipment, but I like to use the oven. I normally put it on 250, 275, and that's fine for the jars. So anyway, I'm going to heat these up. Once it starts to boil, I'll set my timer for 10 minutes, and then that'll cause it to can and seal the tops. You only put the lids on finger tight. That way you can allow the lid to pop down. So we've talked about canning and sterilization. All those are important for preserving food, but I want to talk about food preservation for just a second. So if I have a high acid content food like jams, jellies, most of your fruit has a lot of acid in it, you can just simply can it without any additional preservatives. That'll can it. So if you have something like, let's say, cucumbers or green beans, some sort of vegetable that doesn't have a high acid content, you can add acid to it and can it. So that's what you see in pickling. So cucumbers are pickled, they make pickles. And that's really a combination of two things, combining acid and salt. So you increase the salinity. That alone you can use to preserve foods. But for taste, they also add the vinegar. So, but you could just use high acid content. Fermentation is also used to store food, so not just to make wine. I mean, that allows the wine to last longer. But if you've ever had kimchi, there you're using fermentation to actually preserve the food. It also gives it a good taste, but it also preserves it. And since we were talking about salt, you can use salt to preserve food, not just in a liquid, but if you've ever had a salt-cured ham, that's using salt. You can also dry stuff. So you can dry fruit, so like raisins, you set those out and allow them to dry. You've probably seen hatch chilies, different types of peppers that are dried. All of those are methods of preserving food. And you can dry meat. You can also can meat. So if you've ever had Spam, you notice how salty it is. They're using that in the process of food preservation, in the canning process. But you definitely want to make sure that if it's a low acid food, that you either add acid to it, or you can use a pressure cooker. So if you're talking about green beans or some sort of vegetable and you don't have acid or a high amount of salt available, you can use a pressure cooker. And what that does is it gets the temperature so high, higher than you could get with just boiling alone, that it kills the bacteria that are in there.